Welcome to the ISO Show, dispelling myths and sharing tips for success to improve your business with ISO standards, with your host, Mel Blackmore.
If you're listening to this podcast, then you're in great company. We've got thousands of listeners who have a thirst for continuous improvement and raising standards in business. Whether your interest is in quality, sustainability, or risk standards, I'd love to welcome you as a member to our online platform for all things ISO, the iology Hub. The iology Hub is the leading place to get access to all of your online resources, from in-depth training courses through to our very popular coffee break training, to templates and action plans and many other resources to help raise standards. As a member, you get access to over 100 courses, taking you from learner to practitioner to leader. The iology Hub has all the resources that you need, which will really help to make your life easier and to help improve compliance in those business critical areas. So if you'd like access to learning and compliance resources ranging from data privacy to environmental management, anti-bribery, business continuity, quality, health and safety, to name just but a few, the list is endless actually, then we'd love you to come and join us. Just head over to the iologyhub.com. Hello and welcome to the ISO Show. Today we're touching on a very topical subject, AI, and more specifically the brand new AI management system standard, ISO 42001. So today I'll be explaining what ISO 42001 is, who it's applicable to, why it was created, and lastly I'll also explain how ISO 42001 can help businesses manage AI risks. Now, because this is a brand new ISO standard that's been issued, and it was literally only issued at the end of last year, at the end of 2023, we know that this is going to generate a lot of interest because practically everybody's using AI in some form or another. So what we'll be doing is providing a few more podcasts on this subject as well over the coming weeks. So that's going to include the top 10 reasons to adopt ISO 42001. And we'll also provide a podcast on an overview of the 42001 requirement. So that's where I'll drill down into the standard in a bit more detail to go through some of those clauses, and you'll be able to then see how they relate to other ISO standards if you're already certified to another ISO. So let's dive right in. So I suspect that most of you are familiar with the term AI. For those that may not know exactly what that entails, AI, otherwise known as artificial intelligence, is, at its most simplest description, the science of making machines think like humans, like us, which is a bit scary. It is when if we've got a machine thinking like me anyway. Dread to think what would happen there. Anyway, we've seen lots of AI tools being released to the public over the last year or so, and they're becoming more and more prominent in business. So tools such as ChatGPT and Google Bard, which just recently changed to Gemini, they are absolutely mind-blowing tools. We actually ran a session on this on our strategy day at the beginning of January 2024, and we can definitely see the value in using AI as a consultancy firm, and also being basically an intrinsic part of the way that we work in business. It's already been integrated with some of the most commonly used apps and programs that you're already familiar with, like Microsoft Word and Teams. Whether you realise it or not, AI is basically part of our day-to-day life. But in short, AI integration is pretty much here to stay. So we might as well get to grips with it from a business perspective and make sure we're using it responsibly. So basically being the master, not the servant of it. which is exactly where ISO 42001 comes in. So what is ISO 42001? Well, ISO 42001 is the first international standard for artificial intelligence management systems, which is designed to help organisations to implement, maintain and improve AI management practices. It was jointly published in December 2023 by the International Organisation for Standardisation, so otherwise known as ISO, that you'll be very familiar with if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, and also the International Electrotechnical Commission, the IEC. So it's very much been a collaborative practice in terms of bringing together industry best practice across ISO and IEC from across multiple organisations and trade bodies, etc., across the globe. So the emphasis of 42001 is on integrating an AI management system with an organisation's existing management system and structure. So let's say you've already got ISO 9001 as a certified management system in place for your business. It's designed to integrate seamlessly with it. So there are some common elements in there that you will see, such as context of the organisation, internal audits and management review, for example. But I will be coming on to the clauses when we discuss that in another podcast. So interestingly, a lot of the specific mentions of AI and machine learning are within the annexes rather than the body of the standard. And if you're going to be getting a copy of this standard, there is quite comprehensive guidance in that annex, which would be really useful if you're interested in finding out more about the standard. And the other thing, if you're looking at gathering more information on this standard, is we'll be publishing some content in the iology hub as well in 2024. So we've got plans to create that training for you so that you've got access to it at your fingertips. The standard itself is quite similar to 27001 in that it's mostly about what organisations should be doing to manage computer systems regardless of any AI components. There is a very strong emphasis around risk assessments and the impact as well of AI within the organisation. But I'm not going to go into too much detail about the structure of the standard itself in this episode, but I just wanted to give you a brief explanation of the 4 annexes which are included, as these are where the main AI guidance lies. So let's start with Annex A. So this acts as a management guide for AI system development. This focuses on trustworthiness, and we'll touch in why that is so important a little bit later. Next is Annex B. So this provides implementation guidance for AI controls. So this provides information on specific measures for artificial intelligence and machine learning. And you might be thinking, is there a difference? Well, yes, there is a difference between those two. And if you'd like a detailed description of that, then go back and listen to episode 135. Next is Annex C, which addresses AI-related organisational objectives and risk sources. And finally, Annex D. This one's all about the domains and the sectors in which AI systems may be used. So it also addresses certification, and we're delighted to hear that it actively encourages the use of the third-party conformity assessment. So this will basically ensure that your AI claims have more validity. Now, those annex descriptions may have you assuming that this standard is only applicable to organisations developing AI technology. But actually, it's applicable to any organisation who is involved in developing, deploying, or using AI systems. So I'll just repeat that. It's applicable to any organisation who's involved in developing, deploying, or using AI systems. If you're using AI systems within your business, but you're not a developer, you're not an AI business, then this is something that you will be interested in and could potentially be very useful. So if you're a company who is only utilising AI in your day-to-day activities, you could say it's still very much applicable to you. Are you new to ISO standards and want to know what it's all about? Or maybe your company has multiple ISO standards, but there's a lack of engagement and compliance. Whether it's quality, sustainability or risk standards, the iology Hub is your one-stop shop for all your online learning resources associated with raising your company's standards. From as little as £99 a month, you can have unlimited access to hundreds of online training courses and achieve certification for completion of courses along the way, which will take you from learner to practitioner to leader in no time. So what courses are in the Hub? Well, there are courses on everything a head of quality, sustainability, information security and health and safety would need to manage compliance and raise standards. With over 100 courses available to you, here are examples of just a few. ISO 9001 Internal Auditor, how to transition to the new ISO 27001 standard, the role of ESG in quality management, and how to integrate management systems. But it's not just courses in the iology Hub. You can access templates, downloads, and action checklists to take your business to the next level. So why not try the iology Hub today? Just click on the link at www.iologyhub.com and you'll get access to all our resources within minutes. If you're interested in embedding best practice across your organisation or would like to develop an awareness and training programme for employees, we offer a free learning and development session to tailor a bespoke training programme based on your organisation's needs. So we'd love for you to join as an iology Hub member. Just head over to iologyhub.com to get access to your unlimited training and compliance resources. So why exactly was this standard created? Well, there's a couple of reasons, but probably the most important one right now is to address the unprecedented rapid growth of AI and all the risks that come with this new technology. Again, we'll be touching on those shortly. With new technology, there's also the need to ensure that its development and use are trustworthy and, above all, ethical. So we've seen a lot of plagiarism around when it comes to AI. I know that when I published the Net Zero Planner on Amazon, there was a question that came up: have you used AI to create it? No, I hadn't, but it is literally everywhere right now. So yeah, there is that question around how ethical is our use of AI. The public are also reasonably wary of this new technology, so 42001 aims to help build more public trust and confidence in the future use of AI. And lastly, ISO 42001 acts as a guidance for documents on exactly how to integrate AI management controls within their existing system. So if you're scratching your head on exactly how to do that, it may be worth taking a look at the guidance provided in the annexes of ISO 42001. As I mentioned earlier, there are also a number of risks associated with AI that many may not actually be aware of. So I'll just list a couple of those actually for you. One is inaccurate information. So many of the chatbots and public AI tools are trained on publicly available information, as we all know. Not everything on the internet is true, believe it or not. So the output from these chatbots will need to be checked and verified by a person before being used or published. AI bias. So studies have proven that AI results can still be biased, as all the data fed into it is all based on existing information. It still presents the issue of a lack of information from underrepresented groups or existing bias based on existing data. So there's a lot to take in here when it comes to the bias there, and we need to be really, really careful that the information that you're pulling out of your AI sources like ChatGPT is actually from a credible source. So again, that's something that you need to check. Another factor to consider is time sensitivity. So not all AI use live data sets. Google Bard, which is also known as Gemini now, does. However, ChatGPT is only accurate up until 2021. That was at the time of recording this podcast, and I'm sure that will change in due course. But just to let you know that you need to be aware of the time frame that this information is being pulled from. So double check whichever tool you're using just to make sure that the information it's producing for you is actually up to date. Another risk to look out for is plagiarism. And I know that certain organisations will be concerned with this, and universities are a good example of that, by just copying and pasting information. So ultimately, data gathered using AI is going to come from somewhere. If you simply copy and paste that information from the AI platforms, there is a chance you may be plagiarising existing content. So just be sure you use AI as a starting point and to be able to basically cross-reference and validate that information. Then, of course, there is security risks. For any of our ISO show listeners, you know that we've covered information security and data privacy extensively on the podcast. So this does need to be factored into your risk assessments because there is a massive security risk using AI. Because use of AI can expose you to additional security risks. For example, malicious actors could send someone an email with a hidden prompt injection in it. If the receiver happened to use an AI virtual assistant, the attacker might be able to manipulate it into sending the attacker personal information from the victim's emails. So obviously there is a lot of positive reasons to use AI, but we do need to be really mindful of the negative impacts as well. And last but not least, data poisoning. Yes, that is actually a thing. It sounds quite lethal, doesn't it? But what is data poisoning? Well, AI uses large data sets to train its models, and we currently rely on these data sets being relatively accurate. However, researchers have found that it's possible to poison these data sets. So in future, AI may not be very reliable if preventative measures aren't put in place by AI developers. So how can ISO 42001 help businesses manage these risks? Well, above all, it provides a structured approach to identify, assess, and mitigate AI risks. ISO 42001 includes the guidance needed to put this in place from the very beginning to ensure that you don't fall prey to the risks that I've just been talking about. And by the way, they're just a few of the risks. There are probably risks out there that we're not even aware of at the moment because this is such a fast-paced way of being able to access data at the moment. So, yeah, we just don't know. So it's important that, the controls from 42001 are put in place to help us to identify, assess and mitigate those AI risks. Above all, it promotes transparency and accountability throughout the AI lifecycle, which I think you'll agree is something that's needed at the moment. It helps ensure fairness, non-discrimination, and also respect for human rights in AI development and deployment. We're already seeing some stories of bias in bots that assist with sorting through CVs and in cases of people being replaced by AI in the tech support field. So this will become more of an issue as we see AI become more complex in future. In fact, we did an interview last year and we had an inkling that the person on the other side of the screen, we didn't see their face, they said that there was a problem with the camera, was done through AI. The answers that they gave were beyond perfect. They went way above and beyond answering the questions in the way that we would have wanted them to, and it was almost too good to be true. And then afterwards, I think because of the image on the screen, we thought, yeah, actually, that AI could have been involved with that. We had a face-to-face interview with a candidate and it was a different matter altogether when it came to answering questions. So it's just something to be aware of. AI is everywhere now. It's also going to help to minimise potential legal and ethical liabilities associated with AI, and I'm sure we'll see more legislation focused on AI coming out over the next few years. But for the time being, the UK's current GDPR and Data Protection Act can only loosely cover aspects of AI, depending on how the terminology is applied. But there are already dedicated AI-based regulations being developed within the EU, which is likely to be adopted by the UK. So if you're listening to this in another country, it's definitely worthwhile just keeping an eye on what's coming up in terms of future legislation. Another way that 42001 can help businesses to manage their risks is it can help to foster innovation and accelerate adoption of responsible AI practices. So I know we've talked about a lot of the risks and about protecting the business from a compliance perspective, but let's not forget that AI is here to, in theory, help to accelerate businesses and the way that we operate if used in the right way. And lastly, the standard provides a common language and framework for collaboration on AI projects. So that's ISO 42001 in a nutshell. So I know it's only been a high-level overview at the moment, but as I said earlier, we have got some other podcasts coming up on the subject because we know that this is an area of interest. If you'd like to learn more about 42001, we're also partnering with PJR, which is a US-based certification body, to run a 2-part webinar series on 42001 and its application in ISO management systems. So if you'd like to register for that, just simply head over to pjr.com/webinar, and also we'll have links to that in the show notes as well, so that you can get access from the usual place that you get access to your ISO information on these podcasts. As always, we'd really appreciate it if you could leave us with a nice shiny review so that we can get this podcast out to more people that are interested in raising standards. And also don't forget to hit subscribe on your preferred media player so you don't miss out on those future episodes that I mentioned earlier on. So that's all from me for now. Thanks very much for listening, and I'll catch up with you on the next ISO show.
Looking to use ISO standards to drive better business practice? Contact us at blackmoresuk.com to access further information and book your free 15-minute call.